Shark attacks are rare. Don't believe me? Statistics actually say that you are more likely to be killed by a cow than a shark. But still, ever since we saw the first Jaws movie, getting gobbled up by a shark is always on the back of our minds every time we go to the beach or take a bath even. Well, at least that last one is for me. Behind every shark attack is an amazing story, so let's talk about 10 shark attacks you will not believe. Number 1 is quite a severe shark attack and the ending is nothing less than a miracle, so watch out for that, and of course, spoiler, some of these can be kind of violent. With all that said and done, let's begin, shall we? Number 10. The Unbelievable Rescue. If you ask me, I consider that a mother's love for her children to be the strongest, most amazing force in the universe. However, a shark is kind of right behind that, in my opinion. Time and time again, we've seen mothers risk life and limb just to make sure that their children are safe. In this entry, we bear witness to motherly love so strong it was able to snatch a life away from the jaws of danger. No pun intended. It's kind of literal at this point. Vela Levy and her then 15-year-old daughter Sydney were at the New Smyrna beach on March 14, 2012. The mother-daughter duo was all set to spend some quality time at the beach. The two women were paddling on their surfboards when the shark attack happened. Sydney was immediately pulled underwater, right in front of her horrified mother. Sydney was able to get back on her board though, but when she lifted her leg, it was a crimson mess. However, the attack didn't stop there. The sea creature pulled the girl again and tried to drag her away. This was when Valet decided that she wasn't going to let anything harm her daughter. She grabbed Sydney's shoulders and pulled hard, and eventually she was able to get Sydney on her board, and the two were fortunately helped by other surfers in the area. Number 9. A different outcome. Remember how Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed became the best of friends? No? I'm too young to have watched Rocky? Well, anyway, they beat the crud out of one another in the first 2 movies, then they became friends. I know what you're thinking, that wouldn't happen in real life, that's some Dragon Ball Z stuff going right there. How can you be buddies with a person who previously beat you up? The truth is, it actually does happen. In this case, it did, although it didn't involve 2 prize-fighters. Krishna Thompson and his wife flew to the Bahamas with the intent of celebrating their 10-year anniversary. They were enjoying their day at the beach when Krishna was suddenly bit by a shark on the leg and started to drag him into the open ocean. By sheer will, he was able to pry the shark's jaws apart, and then he gave his attacker a few punches to the nose, sending it scurrying away. He survived the attack, but his leg was subsequently amputated. You would think that this incident would leave him with a bitter taste in his mouth, hating the species that gave him his disability for the rest of his life. However, it was the complete opposite. Krishna fully accepts the fact that it wasn't the shark's fault that he was attacked. Humans have been rapidly encroaching into their territory, making attacks more frequent. He is actually now one of the greatest advocates for shark conservation. If that isn't some massive story arc, I don't know what is. Number 8. I filmed my own horror story. In 1964, amateur underwater photographer and filmmaker Henry Borse and 2 other divers were playing with some seals in the ocean off Lady Julia Percy Island in Australia. I'm pretty sure I could have trailed off at seals and you all would have known what happened next. Suddenly, a great white came up from under Borse and took off his leg. A lot of leg stuff in this one so far. His diving partners heard Borse scream and then saw his leg floating in the water. They managed to get Borse back onto the boat and he was able to tell them his blood type, which was radio to head to shore. Borse later recounted that he tried to get his leg free by jamming his hand down the shark's throat and gouging its eyes. Borse is an amateur and underwater photographer and filmmaker, and a few years later he took the original film footage from the attack and reconstructed the other parts for a documentary called Savage Shadows. Number 7. Dolphins to the rescue. Rob Howes and 3 others were swimming 100 meters off Ocean Beach in New Zealand when they were suddenly encircled by a pod of dolphins. They thought they were being warded off by a group of aggressive males that were protecting their calves. The dolphins were getting closer and closer, as close as 4 centimeters away from the swimmers. When Howes found an opening, he started swimming away. Then one male dolphin saw him and submerged towards him. This was when he looked down and he spotted a great white shark about 2 meters below them. When the shark began to make a move towards them, the dolphins went into hyperdrive, agitating the water around the swimmers. Howes recounted that all he could see was a mass of fins, backs, splashing water, and human heads. Although it wasn't stated how, but a rescue boat soon approached them, which apparently drove the shark away, preventing the worst-case scenario. They realized that the dolphins were acting so strangely in order to confuse the shark, preventing the attack. Ironically, Howes and the 3 others were all lifeguards out on a training swim that day. Number 6. Are you ready for your close-up? When faced with a dangerous situation like being attacked by a shark, you only have your wits and/or whatever is available to fend off for yourself and possibly save your life. If you are an underwater photographer shooting one of the most aggressive sharks in the world, of course you use your camera. Conservationalist Russell Easton was photographing a 12-foot tiger shark in the Bahamas when he got the close-up he was not expecting. He was looking through the camera's viewfinder taking photos of the beast when all of a sudden all he could see was a huge mouth and sharp teeth. It was only because of the camera that he was not bitten. Easton explains that biting is the only way for sharks to find out what something is, and is the reason for many shark attacks. He was just fortunate that the tiger shark was more curious about the camera than him, giving him precious seconds to swim away. This horrifying swim isn't without its rewards though. He did manage to take a photo like no one else has, the inside of a live ferocious shark's mouth. Number 5. You bite my foot, I'll punch your face. As previously explained in the previous entry, sharks take tiny bites on things that they are curious about before deciding if it's edible or not. Lucky for the guy in this entry, he had the presence of mind and fists of stone to defend himself before the shark decided that he was going to be its next meal. Joshua Hawley was surfing at his favorite spot off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii's North Shore, when he felt a push on the left side of his body. When he looked, he spotted the unmistakable dorsal fin of a huge shark. Then he felt a pumping sensation in his foot. He felt no pain, and he said it was probably due to the adrenaline. When the shark submerged, Hawley knew he only had one course of action. He had to defend himself, or he was going to be the main course. The shark came out, this time on his right side, but he was ready. Hawley gave the shark 2 strong right jabs to the nose, forcing the shark to turn tail and swim away. Number 4. A great comeback. One of the most famous surfers on the planet and the subject of a Hollywood film, Bethany Hamilton's shark attack is probably one of the most famous in all of history. Not because it was such a terrible tragedy, but because it perfectly displays the strength and fortitude that we're capable of showing. The surfer was riding waves at the age of 13 when a shark came up beside her and bit into her board. It took her completely off of it. The bite was so quick and clean that Hamilton reportedly didn't even realize what had happened until she heard her friends screaming and saw the red in the water around her. She quickly rushed to the shore. Hamilton was then taken to the hospital where her injuries were quickly seen to. You might think that this kind of event could scar a young girl forever, but not her. Hamilton has gone on not only to continue surfing, but also to become one of the most successful female surfers of all time, wearing her scars as a symbol of overcoming odds and never letting any disability to stop anyone from doing what they want. Number 3. Immortalized on canvas. John Singleton Copley was the most renowned painter in colonial America. Although he was best known as a portrait artist, one of his more famous paintings was called Watson and the Shark. This painting depicts a brutal scene of a fair-haired young boy reaching from the water for help as a large shark closes in, mouth open and ready for dinner. Copley based his painting on an actual shark attack from 1749. The victim was Brooke Watson, a 14-year-old crew member of a trading ship that was docked in Havana, Cuba. Watson was swimming in the harbor one day when a shark attacked him not once, but twice. The good news? His shipmates witnessed the attack and pulled him from the water, saving his life. The bad news? They were a little late. Watson lost his foot in the attack and later had the leg amputated below the knee. Watson did, however, go on to lead a good full life, serving in the House of Parliament for 9 years, as well as becoming the Lord Mayor of London. Not to mention the notoriety he received as being the first known shark attack survivor. Now it's time for the day's best pick. Today our photo shows a great white breaching the water in the act of attacking someone on shore. Now, we know that's physically impossible for a shark that size to attack someone close to shore, but that doesn't necessarily mean that attacks don't happen that close to shore, just not on that level of violence. Number 2. Sharks in the shallows. Shallow water seems like a strange place for a shark attack. After all, they sometimes get so close to shore that they can barely move. Nonetheless, it does happen. While it's hard to say for sure why sharks attack in shallow water, some species, such as the bull shark, like to feed in murky, warm, shallow waters. On July 6, 2001, a 7.4-foot, 200-pound bull shark tore off the arm of an 8-year-old boy in Pensacola, Florida. The shark attacked in waist-deep water and took a bite off the boy's arm and thigh during the first pass. The shark then clamped onto his arm. While people on the beach wrestled with the shark, it ripped the boy's arm off. One man then pulled the shark ashore and shot it 4 times in the head, pried open the mouth with a baton, and reached in and pulled out the boy's arm. The boy and his arm were rushed to the hospital. The arm, which was ripped off 4 inches from the shoulder, was reattached, but the loss of blood left the boy near death and caused brain damage. The boy remained in a light coma when he was released from the hospital 5 weeks after the attack.
I saved the best for last, but first, I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. If you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it, it really works.
Number 1. By the skin of his wetsuit. Rodney Fox is the most famous shark attack victim in history. Why is that? Because of the extent of his injuries and the fact that he survived them. On December 8, 1963, Fox was defending his Australian spearfishing title when a great white shark grabbed him around the middle and took him for a ride. He was flying through the water upside down, trying to gouge the shark's eyes. The shark released him and came back for more. Fox jammed his arm down the throat of the beast and pulled it free, ripping the flesh from his arm. The shark released him again and came back a 3rd time, dragging Fox along the ocean floor. After nearly drowning, Fox was released and pulled into a nearby boat. His bones were visible on his right hand and arm, and the hand alone required 94 stitches. His rib cage, lungs, and upper stomach were all exposed. His rescuers kept his wetsuit on, which kept his internal organs from spilling out, and may have saved his life as well. He arrived at the hospital within an hour of the attack, and somehow never went into shock. Miraculously, his main arteries remained intact, and after 4 hours of surgery and 360 stitches, Fox lived to tell his tale, stating that right after the attack, his body was literally being held together by his wetsuit. Who is having nightmares of being attacked by a shark? Let us know in the comment section down below. Want to watch more amazing stories about amazing people? Click on any of the videos you see on your screen. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody.